I never thought I would be posting here, but I am 27, still processing what happened 2 months ago, and honestly, I need to get this out because I am not sure if I went too far or not far enough. I am Jake, oldest of 2 kids. My younger brother Marcus is 21. Parents are Linda and Robert. I have always been the responsible one, the kid who got good grades, never got in trouble, worked part-time through college to minimize student loans. I showed up to family dinners every Sunday like clockwork, remembered birthdays, played the good son role perfectly. Nothing spectacular, just normal family stuff that you do because that is what family means, right? Marcus, on the other hand, was always the golden child. Dropped out of college twice, could not hold a job for more than 6 months, but somehow, my parents always found excuses for him. He is finding himself, they would say. He has got such potential, he just needs the right opportunity. Meanwhile, I had been working in tech support for 3 years, paying my own bills, living in a modest 1-bedroom apartment, and generally being what most people would call a functional adult. 2 months ago, my life literally went up in flames. Not metaphorically, actually flames. I was coming back from grocery shopping on a Thursday evening. I remember this vividly because I had just bought ingredients to make my mom's famous lasagna recipe for meal prep. I was actually excited about trying it out. Then I saw the fire trucks lined up outside my building, and my stomach dropped into my shoes. You know, that moment when you are driving toward your building, and you see emergency vehicles, and there is this sick feeling in your stomach? That was me. Except the sick feeling was right. The closer I got, the more obvious it became that this was not just someone's kitchen mishap. Thick black smoke was pouring out of the 3rd floor. My floor. Orange flames were visible through what used to be my living room window. The smell hit me before I even got out of my car. That acrid chemical smell of melting plastic and burning electronics, mixed with something deeper and more devastating. The smell of your entire life going up in smoke. Electrical fire. My unit plus 2 others. The fire captain, a weathered guy named Rodriguez, explained it to me while I stood there in shock. Old building, old wiring that had not been updated since the 1970s. A power surge from a storm the night before had apparently overloaded the system. Not my fault. Not anyone's fault, really. Just one of those nightmare scenarios that insurance companies exist for, but that you never think will happen to you. But everything I owned was gone. 27 years of life reduced to what I had in my car. My phone, wallet, a backpack with my laptop, and the clothes I was wearing. My grandmother's jewelry that I had been saving for my future wife. The photo albums from college. The stupid but expensive gaming setup I had spent 2 years saving for. The vintage leather jacket my ex-girlfriend gave me that I still wore, because it was genuinely the nicest piece of clothing I own. All of it. Gone. Standing on the sidewalk at 8 p.m., watching firefighters hose down what used to be my home while neighbors gathered in clusters, whispering and taking photos. I did what anyone would do. I called my parents. Now, my parents are not wealthy, but they are comfortable. My dad worked for 30 years as a mid-level manager at an insurance company. The irony was not lost on me. And my mom had been a part-time real estate agent until she retired a few years ago to focus on her church activities and what she called community work, which mostly involved gossiping with other suburban moms at the country club. Their house sits on almost an acre in one of those neighborhoods where every lawn is perfectly manicured and every driveway has 2 cars that get washed every Sunday. Behind their main house sits this perfectly maintained guest house that my dad built about 10 years ago during what my mom called his midlife project phase. It is not huge, maybe 600 square feet, but it is beautiful. Full kitchen with granite countertops, a spa-like bathroom with one of those rainfall shower heads, a bedroom with one of those rainfall shower, vaulted ceilings, and a little porch with string lights that my mom insisted on because she saw it on Pinterest. Every time I visited, which was religiously every Sunday for dinner and most major holidays, the guest house was empty, just sitting there like a museum exhibit. My mom would occasionally mention using it for overflow guests during holidays, but in 3 years I had never seen anyone actually stay there. It was just waiting. When my mom picked up the phone, I expected, I do not know, concern. Shock? Basic human empathy? The kind of reaction you would hope for when calling your mother to tell her your life just literally burned down. Instead, she sounded weirdly calm, like I had just told her I was running late for dinner, or that traffic was heavy on the highway. Oh wow, that is something, she said. Just, that is something. Like I'd mentioned the weather or told her about a mildly interesting thing I had seen on TV. I'm standing there, surrounded by the sound of sirens and the smell of my melted belongings. And my mother responds like I have just told her about a minor inconvenience. Then came the kicker, delivered in that same bizarrely calm tone. Maybe it is a sign from God that it is time for you to start over somewhere else. I actually pulled the phone away from my ear and stared at it for a second. A sign from God? I am standing in the street, homeless, watching everything I own turn to ash, and my mother is talking about divine intervention and cosmic fresh starts, like this is some kind of spiritual awakening retreat. I thought maybe she was in shock, you know? Sometimes people say weird things when they are processing bad news. Maybe this was just her way of trying to find the silver lining, trying to be positive in a crisis. I have heard people react strangely to trauma before. But then I asked the obvious question, the one that seemed so natural I did not even think about it. Can I stay in the guest house for a bit? Just until I find a new place and get back on my feet? The pause was long enough that I thought the call had dropped. Then the excuses came. Fast and smooth like she had been rehearsing them. Oh, The guest house is under renovation. Oh, there is no space because they are storing furniture in there. Oh, they are getting older and cannot deal with that kind of disruption right now. She actually suggested, and I swear this is what she said, that I should check out a cheap extended stay motel for a week or two and see where the spirit leads me. The spirit. My apartment just burned down. I am standing next to a fire truck, and she is talking about following my spiritual journey to a Motel 6. I hung up and just sat there on the curb, scrolling through hotel apps on my dying phone. My buddy Sean from my old soccer league let me crash at his place, but his girlfriend was not thrilled about it. I was grateful, but sleeping on someone's couch when you were 27 and have a family with resources, it stings. About a week into my couch surfing adventure at Sean's place, where I was sleeping on a lumpy futon in a living room that smelled like his girlfriend's vanilla candles and his gym socks, I was mindlessly scrolling through Instagram at 11 p.m., unable to sleep because of the street noise and the constant anxiety about my situation. That is when I saw something that made my blood freeze in my veins. Marcus had posted a story from what was clearly my parents' backyard. I recognized everything immediately. The stupid, inflatable flamingo float my mom bought 3 summers ago and refuses to throw away despite my dad's complaints. The specific angle of their kidney-shaped pool. The ugly ceramic garden gnome my dad bought ironically at a garage sale, but now loves unironically. Even the distinctive pattern of their passia stones that they had spent a fortune on 2 years ago. But then Marcus panned the camera, and there it was. The guest house. Not under renovation. Not filled with stored furniture. Not uninhabitable due to my parents' advancing age and inability to handle disruption. Lights on inside. His hoodie hanging on the porch railing like he owned the place. A pair of Nike slides kicked off casually by the door. Through the window, I could see the flicker of a TV screen. I stared at my phone screen until it went dark, then stared at the black reflection some more, feeling something cold and sharp settle in my chest. The guest house that was under renovation. The space that was unavailable. The disruption my aging parents could not handle. My brother was living there, rent-free, comfortable, safe. Blah. While I was sleeping on a couch that hurt my back, showering at Planet Fitness, and eating dollar menu items because I was trying to save every penny for a security deposit on a new place. The betrayal hit me in waves. First, the pure shock of the lie. Then, the anger at being deceived. Then, something deeper and more painful. The realization that my parents had looked at their 2 sons, one homeless from a fire, and one just wanting a change of scenery, and they had chosen Marcus. I screenshot the story before it disappeared and DM'd Marcus immediately. Nice place. How long have you been staying there? 3 little dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again, then nothing. He left me on read, but I could see he had viewed the message. The next day, like he was mocking me, he posted a picture from inside the guest house. I recognized everything. The same ugly floral curtains my mom picked out years ago because they were cheerful. The same furniture, the same everything. Except now it was Marcus's temporary palace while I was eating ramen from a coffee mug and trying not to overstay my welcome at Sean's place. In the photo, he was sprawled on the couch I used to nap on during family gatherings, controller in hand, looking completely at home. The caption was just a gaming controller emoji and blessed with praying hands emoji. Blessed, wonderful. My brother was feeling blessed about living in the space my parents had lied about, while their other son was homeless. When I called my dad, his response was even worse than my mom's spiritual guidance session. Things are complicated right now. Marcus has some stuff going on, and we are trying to help him get on his feet. What about helping me get on my feet? That is different. How is that different? It just is. Look, you are older. You should be able to handle this kind of thing. I wanted to scream. Instead, I asked directly, why did you lie about the guest house being unavailable? We did not lie. It is complicated. Not everything is about you. Then he hung up on me. I threw my phone onto Sean's bed harder than I probably should have. For the next week, I operated on autopilot. Sleep at Sean's, shower at the gym, work, repeat. I started sleeping in my car some nights just to give Sean and his girlfriend space. Meanwhile, my mom kept sending these passive-aggressive texts. Thinking of you, hope you are finding your way, and sometimes God closes doors to open windows. Never once offering actual help. Never mentioning money or a place to stay. Just spiritual platitudes from someone who was actively lying to me. Then came the text that changed everything. Sunday dinner this week is important. I am making roast. I may once chill, Paul. Tashi to was. We need to be together as a family. I almost ignored it. I was angry, tired of being angry. But I also wanted answers. And honestly, I was curious to see how they would act with both of us there. So I showed up wearing the only dress shirt I'd managed to save, which still smelled faintly like smoke no matter how many times I washed it. Marcus was there, looking like he had just rolled out of bed, wearing slides like he was at a resort. My mom hugged him, patted me on the shoulder like I was a neighbor kid who had stopped by. Dinner was surreal. My mom talked about church. Marcus mumbled about some online course he was taking. My dad just ate and avoided eye contact with me. Every time I tried to bring up my situation, where I was staying, how the search for a new place was going, anything related to the fact that I was homeless, my mom would change the subject or offer more unsolicited wisdom about how this was probably a blessing in disguise. Finally, I asked Marcus directly, "So how long have you been staying in the guest house?" He shrugged without looking up from his phone. "A while." "How long is a while?" "I do not know, man." "Does it matter?" It was my mom who answered. Marcus needed a quiet space to focus on his studies and his future. Sometimes we have to make sacrifices for family. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. "Right," I said. "Sacrifices for family. Got it." My mom must have heard something in my tone because she stopped cutting her meat and looked at me with this expression I had never seen before. Cold. Almost satisfied. "You know what?" she said, still holding that steady eye contact. "Maybe it would have been better if you had been the one in the flames. You are always so restless anyway." The words hit me like a physical blow. I actually felt the air leave my lungs. But she was not done. My dad, my father, let out this little chuckle. Not a shocked laugh. Not an uncomfortable reaction to his wife saying something horrible. A chuckle of agreement. "We stopped loving you when you turned 12. You know that, right?" I sat there for what felt like an hour but was probably 10 seconds. Marcus looked up from his phone for exactly 1 second, then went back to scrolling. My mom was still staring at me like she was daring me to respond. I pushed my chair back and stood up. Then, it is only fair I returned the favor. My dad rolled his eyes. My mom started to say something, but I was already walking toward the door. Marcus muttered something under his breath that I did not catch and did not care about. I grabbed my keys and left. My mom slammed the door behind me. I stood on their porch for a full minute, just breathing. It was not that I thought my parents loved me. Our relationship had always been polite, but distant. But hearing it said out loud, with Marcus just sitting there, while I was homeless, and they were lying to me. Me. That was different. I got in my car and started driving with no destination in mind. I just knew I was not going to let this slide. Not anymore. For the next few days, I went through the motions of finding an apartment and trying to rebuild my life. But something had shifted after that dinner. I was not just hurt anymore. I was strategically angry. I started paying attention to things I had previously ignored. First, I talked to my Aunt Nancy, my mom's sister. She is the only family member who ever actually asks how I am doing instead of just sending holiday cards. When she called after seeing some vague Facebook post my mom made about prayers for the lost, I told her everything. The fire, the lies about the guest house, the Sunday dinner from hell. Nancy got really quiet. Then she said something that made everything click into place. "I think your parents might be having money trouble, but they would never admit it." That was weird because the last time I had visited, my dad was bragging about his investment portfolio and talking about diversifying assets, acting like money was no object. 2 days later, my mom posted a photo on Instagram of their backyard, all decorated with string lights and fancy cushions. In the background, you could see the guest house door open and Marcus's shoes on the step. The caption was all about family blessings and making new memories. I commented, "Looks nice for a space that is under renovation." She deleted the comment within 5 minutes and texted me to stop causing drama. But I kept digging. I remembered my dad mentioning wanting to turn the guest house into an Airbnb to help with retirement expenses. That would make sense. Except Marcus was living there for free, which meant no income from renters. So I texted Marcus directly, "Do you pay rent for the guest house?" He did not answer, but the next day he sent me a meme about nepotism babies, which was actually kind of funny, but also, read the room, dude. Nancy called me again a few days later, this time sounding upset. "Your mom has been asking around about inheritance paperwork. I think she might be trying to get you to sign something." "What inheritance paperwork?" That is when I learned about the money. When my grandmother died 3 years ago, she had left a substantial amount for me and Marcus. But since we were both young, my parents were supposed to hold it in trust until we turned 30. I had completely forgotten about it. Grief and life had a way of pushing financial details to the background. But Nancy thought my parents might be trying to get me to sign away my share. Suddenly, everything made sense. They did not want me around because they were struggling financially. They needed the guest house to generate income, but they were too soft on Marcus to charge him rent or kick him out. And now they were hoping I would just disappear and maybe sign away my inheritance in the process. I started asking careful questions. When I texted my mom asking if there was any paperwork I needed to sign since I was starting over, she sent back a wall of text about how money cannot solve everything, and the Lord provides in mysterious ways. I screenshotted it and sent it to Nancy. She just sent back a thumbs down emoji. Meanwhile, I started noticing my parents posting a lot about downsizing and embracing simplicity. My dad put his watch collection up for sale on Facebook Marketplace, watches he used to brag about never selling. When I ran into my cousin Victoria at the grocery store, she mentioned that she had heard my parents were having trouble with their Airbnb plans and might have to ask Marcus to move out. Wait, what Airbnb plans? Oh, did you not know? Your parents were counting on renting out the guest house for extra income. But with Marcus there, they are stuck. Everything clicked. My parents were not just being cruel. They were being strategically cruel. They wanted me gone, so I would not complicate their financial situation. They wanted Marcus comfortable, so he would not cause problems. And they probably wanted me to sign away my inheritance so they could access that money too. Well, If they wanted to play games, I could play games too. I stopped being polite. Nancy agreed to help me understand my rights regarding the inheritance. Turns out I could force them to provide a full accounting of the trust and make sure everything was handled properly. I started telling other family members what was really going on. Not dramatically, just facts. Victoria was the first person I told the whole story to, and she was not even surprised. That sounds like them, she said. Word got around. My parents started getting questions from family members. My mom sent me angry texts about airing dirty laundry. My dad called to tell me I was being disrespectful to the family. I hung up on him. The cracks in their perfect image started showing. My mom tried to organize a family dinner and barely anyone showed up. My dad started snapping at Marcus for leaving dishes in the guest house. Marcus texted me, "This tension is your fault." I replied, "Welcome to my world." I sent my mom a formal text requesting a full accounting of my grandmother's inheritance. She called me screaming, saying I was a traitor and tearing the family apart. I hung up on her too. Then my parents started posting desperate stuff online about forgiveness and moving on from the past. I saw my dad at the store one day and he actually tried to shoulder bump me in the aisle. "You think you are so clever, but you are not getting a dime," he said. "We will see," I replied. The final straw was when Marcus texted me that my parents were trying to kick him out because they needed to rent the guest house for cash. "Thanks for ruining everything," he wrote. "You are welcome," I replied. My mom called to negotiate. "If you just sign over your share of the inheritance, we will give you some cash to help you get back on your feet." I laughed. "I want what is mine. Nothing less." She hung up. Victoria told me my parents were panicking, trying to figure out how to pay bills now that they could not access grandmother's money without my cooperation. I went to one more family gathering, a birthday party for my cousin's kid. My parents showed up late, looking exhausted. My dad tried to corner me in the kitchen. "Wajie, you are making a mistake," he said. "Maybe, but I am not making it alone." He slammed a cabinet door and walked away. With Nancy's help, I forced the inheritance issue legally. My parents had to provide full documentation of everything from my grandmother's will. If there was any missing money, they were legally required to repay my share. They could not hide anymore. They could not stall. They had to sell assets to cover my portion of the inheritance, including the guest house. Marcus got kicked out. My parents had to downsize to a smaller place. The perfect family image they had maintained crumbled as everyone realized what they had been hiding. My dad left me a voicemail. "You have ruined our lives." My mom sent texts about how I was breaking her heart. I did not answer any of them. Marcus called me every name in the book before I blocked his number. The family group chat became a war zone. Half the family thought I was justified. The other half thought I was heartless. But for the first time in months, I had my own place. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I got my full share of the inheritance, money that was rightfully mine and had been hidden from me. My parents were forced to face the consequences of their lies and financial mismanagement. At the next family gathering, my dad tried one last guilt trip. "You really think this is what Grandma would have wanted?" "I think she would want people to get what they were promised," I said. My mom tried to cry in front of everyone, but nobody really reacted. Victoria hugged me afterward and said, "I am glad you finally stood up for yourself. Sometimes I wonder if I went too far." But then I remember sitting at that dinner table, my mother looking me in the face and wishing I had died in a fire, while my brother lived rent-free in the space they had lied about. I am not the villain here. I just finally decided to play by their rules, and I played harder. A few family friends have reached out since everything went down. One asked if I would do it all again. I said absolutely. Because if you do not stand up for yourself, people like my parents will just keep taking. They will lie to your face, steal your inheritance, and wish you were dead, all while maintaining their perfect family image. I blocked my parents' numbers permanently. Marcus tried to add me on social media like nothing happened. I ignored him. Life feels normal now in a way it never did before. I have my own place, my inheritance, and I do not owe anything to people who made it clear they never loved me anyway. Not every story has a happy ending, but this one has a real ending. And sometimes that is enough. If you are dealing with family who treat you like garbage, remember, you do not owe them anything. Not your money, not your forgiveness, and definitely not your silence. Thanks for reading this whole saga. It has been wild getting it all out, and honestly, I feel lighter already.